Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is the Public Works Podcast. My name is Joseph Blackman. Today, we got a real treat for you. Her name is Elizabeth Elliott, and she is the Director of Transportation and Utilities at the City of Lincoln in beautiful Nebraska. Liz, say what's up to everybody.
What's up, everyone? It's good to be here. Thank you.
All right. So, Elizabeth, you and I met at the APWA Snow and Ice Show in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yes, it was a perfect place for snow and ice.
Yeah, and so you're the Director of Transportation and Utilities. So let's kind of get into what that is and then kind of why you're at the show. But let's talk about being the Director of Transportation and Utilities. What is that over? And then also give us a random snapshot of a Tuesday.
All right. Well, Lincoln is the capital city of Nebraska, and we have nearly 300,000 residents. And our team of 600 is the bedrock of our community. We're responsible for delivering, enhancing, and maintaining vital infrastructure and services, including streets, our traffic system, right-of-way management, water, wastewater, solid waste, watershed, buses, bikes, and scooters. So we're all over the place, making sure the city's moving forward. And my job really is just to advocate for my team and to make their jobs a little easier, to try and remove barriers so they can focus on their work. And because the variety of work we do and that it covers so much, I don't know that I have a typical Tuesday. I started my job in the middle of the pandemic, so I don't know that I ever really learned what my real job is like, but it's exciting to be a part of so many fabulous projects that really enhance the quality of life for our residents.
Sure. So usually when I see transportation and utilities, they're not linked together. Is that something, okay, you're nodding your head. So is that something that Lincoln does different? Because normally transportation or fleets is different than utilities. And then how do you be good at both of them? Because they're kind of on the different ends of the spectrum. So you want to talk about like why they're put together at Lincoln and then how you take one by one.
You're right. It really is handled very differently across the nation, but more often than not, you see them as two separate departments. And originally here in Lincoln, they were two separate departments, but about probably 40 years ago, the mayor at the time saw a utilities person and a transportation truck out at the same site and just was like, that seems inefficient. And by combining them, because oftentimes our work does overlap, you'll see a project that includes a new water main and new wastewater mains along with a road project. And instead of having two different departments to deal with, that the communication could be more efficient, more effective if they were all part of the same team.
Sure. That makes sense. I get it now. I get it. All right. So you started during the pandemic a couple years ago. And so let's talk about Elizabeth's, like your backstory. I'm sure you didn't sprout up as a mushroom yesterday being the director. So give us like what it was like in high school, young Elizabeth. Were you interested in transportation and utilities? And then what was your career path like to where you're at today?
I don't think I really even knew what transportation and utilities or public works was. Right out of high school, I went right into college here at the university and had my eyes set on law school. And I did go to law school. I ended up going to the University of Denver, Sturm College of Law, focused on criminal law. I wasn't sure if it was going to be criminal defense or prosecution, but I wanted to handle big criminal cases, murder, sex assaults, drug trafficking, those types of things. And I never thought I would ever leave criminal practice. I was in the public defender's office here in Lancaster County for a decade, representing people charged with felonies, drugs, murders, thefts, those types of things. And then after about a decade, decided I needed a little bit of a change. And I began working for the City of Lincoln City Attorney's Office. And there I began representing the police department, the fire department, and a little bit of LTU or Lincoln Transportation Utilities. And that's where I really got to learn how a city works. And I really enjoyed it. I never thought I would leave there. I enjoyed my colleagues and the work I was doing. upstairs in the city attorney's office. But in November of 2019, there was an interim director in my job. He happened to be a former police chief as well. And he approached and said, "Hey, I think you'd be great at this." And to be honest, at first I was like, "You're crazy." But after talking to him a number of times, I decided, the work I really enjoy was working with the LTU team. And the work that they do is just fascinating. And so I said, why not? I don't want to regret it. So I started this job February 26th of 2020, just a few weeks before the pandemic hit here locally. And it's been a whirlwind, but a great time ever since.
Sure, sure. I like it. So how do you scratch your law itch? Because I'm sure you're always itching to dig open a case and figure something out. Like, are you reading crime novels? Are you always keeping track of certain cases going on? Like, how do you scratch that itch?
Well, I actually live with a prosecutor. He every now and then will come home and chat about cases, and we can bounce ideas off each other. But I still, in this job, deal with a lot of just different legal issues. It could be as simple as contracts, or it could be, dealing with some construction project that's not going great and trying to understand and work with the contractors. It could be personnel matters that I have to deal with. So there's still a lot of legal components to my job, and it's good having that training and issue spotting behind me. So it's helpful.
Yeah, yeah. I'm big on like transferable skills. No matter what you did, let's say yesterday, 2 years before, you can always take that experience and apply it to what you're doing today. So I can tell like you have that legal background, you have that knack, and I'm sure it's translated into some of the stuff you're dealing with today. Because it's all people, it's all managing people, and getting stuff done as a community. So I'm sure it transfers a lot. One thing I wanted to get into is skill sets. So let's say you're mentoring young Elizabeth. Young Elizabeth, she comes to you and says, "Hey, more seasoned Elizabeth, what skill set should I pick up along my journey to be successful at what you're doing today?" What would that be?
I think a lot of it would be patience, learning to really listen and ask good questions. And like you just said, this really is just dealing with people, understanding whether it's the employees, whether it's the community, understanding where they're coming from, their pain points and different challenges that they're faced every day, asking good probing questions to learn more, not make any assumptions that you understand and know what they're about to say, and then really try to think outside the box to come up with a solution that's kind of a win-win for everyone. Um, People are often frustrated, whether they're stuck in traffic or if it's an employee, they have to, deal with the personnel system. Things are frustrating. So if you can listen to them and get down to the root of the problem, things typically aren't near as bad as they seem.
Sure, sure. One thing you liked is being able to ask probing questions, being able to take some information and I mean, human nature. Most of us feel like we got everything figured out.
Mhm.
Most men feel like we got everything figured out. So where does that come from? Being able to say, you know what, I don't know everything. I want to probe a little bit deeper so I can like circumvent around it to understand it better, to be able to move forward, I guess, more efficiently. Where did that come from?
It's some days are easier than others, because just like you, there are days where I think in the back of my mind, I know exactly what the answer is. And then 5 minutes into the conversation, I realize I have no clue. And so part of it is just kind of that humbling experience and setting aside the ego that I don't know everything and I don't need to know everything. I've got a team of experts. All I have to do is kind of listen and ask the right questions to get them to the right person or get the right people in the room together to talk about it. And so a lot of it is just taking that step back, saying, "No, Liz, you don't know it all, and that's okay," and asking those questions. And law school trial litigation obviously helps, because as an attorney, you're always asking the witnesses, and what next? Or what else? And just asking those open-ended questions.
Sure, sure. All right, it's story time. I need a story from Liz of when something went wrong under your watch, what you did to fix it, and then what lessons you learned from it to apply to your future career.
When I first started this position, the one thing I heard over and over is, where are you spending my tax money? I don't see any work in my neighborhood. Where's it all going? And what I knew all of the work that was going on, but we weren't communicating well. There was that information gap between what we were doing and what the community was seeing, because most of us only derive in our little nook of the community. We don't get clear across town to see everything that's going on. And so what my vision was that there was this place on the website that people could go to and see all of the work going on across town right now, what's planned in our 6-year capital improvement program, and what's taken place the last couple years, because we have short-term memories. We forget that we were just in your neighborhood 2 years ago. So I went to our communications team and our web designer, and I said, hey, is there any way we could create this map that shows everything? And Michelle Zolke, our web designer, is brilliant. She took off with that vision and created this beautiful projects page where you can go and see every single one of our projects going on across town. And then you can hover over them and it pops up a little bit of that project information. And then you can also click on multiple years. What's going on this season and next season? What happened last season? And it's something that the public, every time they call, and I said, well, let's pull up the project page. Let's see what work is going on. And then it also became something that my team internally uses all of the time if they get questions from the public or our elected officials, because, they're really focused on their region, but this helps them look at the big picture and see where all of the money is being invested and how it's being invested. And each of our projects gives you a timeline, the budget, the contact information for the project manager, that type of thing. And it has just been a game changer, and people now defaulting going to that project page. And so it's that filling that information gap really was a great move and has been extremely helpful.
Gosh, that's such a good idea. And I'm trying to think, like, have I ever seen anything else like that from any other city? Like, is that something that you came up? Are you like the innovator of that? Because
I
it's
would
so cool.
like to credit. I don't know. I'm sure other cities have kind of similar things with their like GIS programs, but this one is just really interactive and gets you
It
right
sounds
to the area you
user-friendly.
want. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, if you could, because we always want to know what's happening on that. There's dirt moving now. What's happening? And then when's it going to be done? And then, like, how much does it cost us? So it's those questions being answered on a website. It's huge. I love that. I'm definitely steal that idea and tell everybody about it. I'll give you credit though. I'll give you credit. All right. So you've been at this for a couple years in this position. So how do you keep your sword sharp? How do you keep learning? How do you keep showing up day after day, week after week, year after year, better and better and better? What's your personal and professional development regimen like?
Leadership really is a journey of constant learning, in my opinion. And I do try to attend at least one conference a year. This year, I've been lucky. I've attended 2 APWA, the Snow and Ice Conference, and then the APWA Mid-America Conference a few weeks ago in KC. But I also listen to a lot of podcasts, including yours and ones like Coaching for Leaders by Dave Stachowiak. Or I'm always trying to read some type of leadership book. The one I opened up this weekend was Atomic Habits by James Clear. But to me, because I'm not an engineer and I wasn't born and raised in the public works industry, I really try to get out in the field with my team as often as I can on last Friday morning, I joined our bridge inspection team just to go out and see how they were inspecting some of the bridges. And it was fascinating to see the work that they do and learn about the different types of bridge structures and the instruments they were using. On Friday, they were out using the drone program, where they were using infrared to be able to see below the surface what you couldn't see with the naked eye in the concrete. And so it was just fascinating to get out, be able to ask questions, learn more about what they do, the challenges that they face, because they're doing this all with traffic moving around them. And, you know, whether it's the middle of summer or the middle of winter, you also have the weather challenges. So trying to learn more about the work my team does and the challenges they're faced always help.
Sure, sure. How do you decompress from it all? You're over so much. How do you mindfully get away and kind of like shut it off?
That is something that I'm still working on. I try and do something new, but I really try and take at least one full day every week completely off. Usually it's Saturdays where I step away. I'm not looking at my email. I'm not reading anything that's industry related. I just completely try to step away, be with family and friends, get out of town. And that provides a little bit of rejuvenation to get back to it on Monday and refreshed and new perspective.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So what would you say is the biggest misconception about your position? Let's say I asked somebody that knew you and I said, what does Elizabeth do all day? What does Liz do for the community? What would they get totally wrong in answering that question?
I think the biggest misconception is that you don't have to be an engineer to be in this role. So when I was at the APWA Mid-America conference a few weeks ago, I was privileged to be on a panel of fabulous, amazing women in the public works industry. And when we were all introducing ourselves about what we did and how we got to where we were, out of 5 of us, there were just 2 of us that weren't engineers. And that really kind of took people by surprise, that you don't have to know the nitty gritty of all of the work to help, because in this role, I don't need to be in the weeds. I need to be able to be a translator and explain what is the work that they're doing and how that's benefiting the community. And so not having to be an engineer or a water technician or a system specialist to do this role. It's someone who really just needs to work and care about people.
Yeah, work and care about people. It's a good one. So let's say you're commissioned to put up a billboard, and this billboard is in the most trafficked area of Lincoln. What would you put on this billboard in regards to transportation and utilities?
So the one thing I think I took for granted before I took this job is the small little things that make our lives great. And that's what I would want in this messaging, is to expand the community's knowledge and thinking about the daily essential services that Lincoln Transportation and Utility provides and how they improve our quality of life every day. So I think what I would see is the billboard would say, provide water for your shower this morning, check. Provide operations to flush your toilet, check. Provide a safe place for your trash to go, check. Provided the street for you to get to work on today, check. And provided the bus for your kids to get to school safely, check. And then say, you're welcome, Lincoln Transportation and Utilities. Just to get people thinking about, I mean, if you think about the first 5 things you do every morning when you get out of bed, you couldn't do them without transportation and utilities. And we just don't think about that. So
This is true. I like that. All right. So what would you say in your position would be like the biggest, best pat on the back? Meaning, because we all go through life and sometimes we're celebrated in ways that we're like, oh, I didn't really want this trophy or want this plaque or want this recognition. But for you, I guess selfishly, what would be like that perfect way to give you a good job, Liz? Like you're doing a good job. What would that be?
I think it would just be hearing, whether it's someone on my team or the community, overhearing them tell someone, hey, I reached out to Liz, told her this problem, she listened, and here's how she helped solve it. Just knowing that that mattered to them and that I provided value in some way is more than enough reward, because that's my biggest goal. Is I want to provide value every day to someone, whether it's a community resident or someone on my team, and being able to just be a fly on the wall and hear someone say that would be amazing.
That's cool. That's cool. All right, let's say I'm coming to town and I text you ahead of time and I say, "Hey Liz, where can I get the best burger in Lincoln? Where are you gonna send me?"
This one's hard because there's so many great places to eat here in town, but I think nothing screams Lincoln more than Honest Abe's. It's a great burger joint here in town. They have amazing burgers, and it's named after Abe Lincoln, so you can't get any better than that.
I guess I didn't put that together. All right. I always like to leave space on the show for you to thank mentors that you had along your journey, and then also offer a word of inspiration and motivation to your director counterparts around the country.
I think a mentor in a little different way than most. I'm so lucky to be surrounded by so many people here at work that inspire me and also help give input so we can make the best decisions for every project, because they're all unique and different challenges we come across every day. And they are part of my everyday, and we wouldn't be so innovative, or we wouldn't be able to have such sustainable projects without each of them. So I would say my mentors, plural, are the people I work with here at LTU every day. I learn something from them all of the time. I've learned to step back and appreciate our community even more in this job. And so I would say I have 600 mentors surrounding me every day, and it's a privilege to work with them. So, and I guess my inspiration is to really, give as much as you take from your team. They inspire every day. They really care about the work they do. They want to provide the best for their community. And if people knew the individuals in this team, I think they would be less critical about the red light that they're sitting at or the pothole they may have just hit. And so I just really want all directors to step back and appreciate the team that they have, because it wouldn't be possible without them.
Gotcha. I like it. I like it. Well, Liz, thank you for hopping on the podcast. Thanks for
Joseph, this has
sharing.
been great.
Yeah, it's been fun. To all the listeners out there, make sure you share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. Liz is out there fighting the battles that most of us, we don't really see, the battles that are actually being fought. So thank you for doing that. Any final words before we get out of here? Any, I guess, personal, professional, or citywide events or things we need to be notified about?
We're doing so many amazing projects around here, whether it's we're searching for our second water source, or we are nearly doubling our expansion at our wastewater treatment plant. You can find all of the fascinating projects on our social media, and you can find us at LTU LNK.
Love it. Love it. Well, Liz, thank you for hopping on the show once again. To all the listeners out there, again, share this with somebody who you think needs to hear it. This has been a Public Works podcast, and thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.